Okay. I think maybe the game audio is a little loud. Okay. Hello and welcome to Plugin Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugin Along, we added update 43 deeds to the deed tracker plugin. So that was some new instance deeds and also some new birding deeds. Today, we're going to start improving the deed tracker preprocessor that I use that gathers information about the deeds from LOTRO companion data files, and that the whole process that I was saying last time needs to be improved. We're going to get started on that today. So today's going to be a little weird. We're going to be one step further removed from the actual game of Lord of the Rings Online. Oftentimes we're here working on plugins, and today we're going to be working on the thing that generates files for the plugin. So I hope that sounds at least a little interesting, but feel free to ask questions about things that are not plugin related as well. We answer diverse questions here. Okay, I am here with my trusty hound that I just acquired over here on the Treebeard server. We are wandering around in the wastes, and I've returned to Glenhillock because it's nice and peaceful. Okay, people are saying hello. Hello, Hayes. Hello, Wizik. Welcome. Okay, so what's going on? So, Deed Tracker plugin, for those who haven't seen it, it's a plugin that helps you track which deeds you have completed. It's kind of what it says on the tin. But the LOTRO Lua API doesn't, or application programming interface, doesn't allow a way for plugins to know what deeds you have or have not completed. So we do some working as best as we can to detect these things. And also, we work with some data provided by LOTRO Companion to know about the deeds. So for instance, if I turn on what is currently marked as the experimental deed tooltips, and I come on into Arid Luin, it's going to say to complete deeds of Arid Luin, and this is all programmatically generated, that I need to complete the deed Explorer of Arid Luin, Hero of Arid Luin, and Slayer of Arid Luin. And then Explorer of, it tells me what each of the other ones are, and so on. What does Brigand Slayer Advanced require? 60 Brigands in Arid Luin. Great. So we are able to automatically generate this information. We don't have to sit there typing in what does it take to do each one of these. Now, that does depend on the data in the Lord of the Rings Online files being correct, and sometimes it is not, but usually it is. And over time, things that are not correct tend to creep towards correctness. Skikosi says, nice view. I agree. I really love the topography of Glenhillock. I'd be a little worried if I was under level 20 about my survivability, but now that I'm level whatever I am, 105, doesn't matter if I accidentally fall off and crater. Oh goodness, I'm playing a lot of game Valheim, and they have a feather cape in there that slows your descent so you can't take falling damage. And then I will jump into other games that don't have that and be like, nuts. I just jumped off of something I shouldn't have. Okay, so what are some problems that the current process tries to solve? Well, let's go ahead and pull open the maintenance file for Deed Tracker. So, the maintenance file for Deed Tracker tells us some steps of what we're trying to do. And a part of this is trying to solve, solve a couple of things. Let me pull up Lord of the Rings Online, plugins, Cube plugins, Deed Tracker in our source files. So, actually I can do it within the code as well. So one of the core files that we have in our data files is deed info. And what this is basically a long list in nested form of the deeds and any categories which are not deeds but they're interspersed here. Any deeds that we want to show in the deed tracker. So let's see, we are at skirmish instances. Let me go ahead and pull that up over here. So skirmish instances. And side by side, we can see tutorial offensive encounters, smoke before the fire, skirmishers of Middle Earth. And we can see, first of all, one of the things that is a problem to be solved is these keys for the table entries need to be numbers that start with 1 and increase by 1 for each entry with no gaps or skips. So if I scroll on down here to the end of this section, the last number is 118. Therefore, if we've done it correctly, there are exactly 118 entries here, no more, no less. Okay, and what we're seeing here in the dtracker user interface is that some of these things are indented to show a hierarchical relationship. Tutorial offensive encounters requires you to complete smoke before the fires, for instance. Skirmish of Middle Earth requires you to complete these other prerequisites, and so on. Banisher of Ill Omens Advanced, you have to complete Banisher of Ill Omens first. So where we can represent a hierarchical relationship where you have to complete some things ahead of others, that's what we're using this indent for. But at the moment, that information is stored apart from this file in a manner that I very much dislike. So I would like to bring that back in where possible. Okay. What are some other things? There are some other attributes that end up in the final file. Let's come on into the deed data file here. If a deed is not actively available, that is stored separately, and I would like to bring that back in. Some information here, minimum level, maximum level, those things can be found in the data file in general. There are some exceptions. But yeah, all those places where there's information, I'd like to get out of the habit of having that stored in a preprocessor code base and store it in line somehow. So that might look like tier, oops, that's too much. So that might look like, let's come to something a little bit more familiar to me. We're going to look at Shire. Okay, so that might look like Deeds of the Shire being tier 0, doesn't matter. Explorer of the Shire, tier 1. Farms of the Shire would be tier 2, and so on. Sites of the Shire would also be tier 2, and then Life of a Bounder would go back to being tier 1. Tier being how many indents is it? In fact, indents might have been a much better name for this, but that ship has sailed for now. And then optionally, this could be tier equals 0, but the code understands that if the tier is not there, then that is the same as being 0. And it saves a few characters to not type that a whole bunch. So where we can omit that information in the file and save a kilobyte of data seems like a win. Okay, so a thing that is of a concern to me is I really don't want to have to pull in all of this information myself. We are currently merging information from the code in the preprocessor and this deed info file. And I think it'd be neat if I could just write that file back out and see what's changed. So we're not going to make that change here. And in fact, we should come into our source control and make sure we're working with clean working directories. So first of all, dtracker. Yes. I had to do a last minute change of some artifacts. So this is the 3.2.1 artifacts. Sure. And we're also going to go ahead and tag that. New tag. V2.1. Alright, push those changes out. Give us some redundancy. Okay, and the preprocessor code, I want to do a couple things first. Let's go ahead and commit these files. We're just going to pop this open in a comparison utility that I use called Beyond Compare. Okay, this is not that. What is that? Okay, subtype. Added more deed metadata. I'll just call it that. Okay, so that is this, that, fix that, yep, more, looks great. What's going on in conflicting quest data? I do not know. Let's come take a look. That's line 234. Looks like I left some things in here that didn't need to be. That's fine. We're going to go ahead and get rid of those. You know what? I was removing some deeds. Let's make sure I didn't miss any. Okay, great. Those are where they should be. Okay, so that is this. Companion, what's going on? Hey says, wish I knew coding. So coding is one of those things where some parts of it can be very straightforward to learn. Like, what we're looking at here is a program written in C#. And the syntax of C#, the basic syntax, can be pretty understandable if you put in put in the time and the effort to learn it. But then there's the problem of how do I apply this language now that I know how to write things in the language? And that for me is the much harder part of knowing where do I move forward from here. And that was when I was first learning programming back in American high school. That was sort of the thing was, if I had an assignment, then I could try to make that assignment work. But if I just was like, sky's the limit, what do I want to write? It was much harder to move forward. So yeah, feel free to stick around. Feel free to ask questions. You don't feel like you'll be derailing things. Oh, excellent. So, a very first thing. Most programming languages will let you write what are called comments, things that are not part of the actual code, but are just information for the programmer. And in a lot of languages, you'll see that marked with a double slash. So this thing, did you remember to update deedinfo.lua? That is a note to me, the programmer, or whoever is reading the code. The computer throws it away. It does not care about that comment at all. Asterisk. And then we can see I added the same information into this message that gets spat out when it chokes on this particular problem. This problem comes up if you don't update that file. It is a reminder to go update that file. Awesome. Clarified exception message. Okay. Deed checker. What's going on here? Yeah. Updated ignore list of deed. Okay. We're going to just save that off. And then the conflicting quest data. That doesn't seem like a good idea. Language specific repeatable. Is this even used? Huh. Sure. We'll assume it's better than nothing. Okay. And then what's going on here? Great. We're automatically detecting these now. Okay, so that's something that was from before, but I am noticing that I did not regenerate the conflicting quests information because it is commented out. We can see these slashes that say ignore this stuff. So this is in our program. This is line 1327. Great. Let's go ahead and uncomment that out so that the computer will actually do it. and make sure we didn't miss any in the update 43 push that we did last week. So this is the preprocessor churning away, doing its thing, doing all sorts of checks so I don't have to. So it's a great time to take a drink of water. Now it's showing the conflicting quest check right now. This is a part that can take a little while, so that's why it was commented out. Okay, so it'll have automatically written those changes, if any, into the dtracker environment. So okay, so what we're seeing is the Temple of Utukbur Inner Sanctum Tier 1 has the same name as a quest, but almost certainly completing the quest completes the name. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to pull that up, pull up that data file and take a look. Okay, so we're looking at lore, we're looking at quest. Oh, it's over here. And we're looking at deeds. Great. So what we're looking at is this deed ID, just that. Looking at this deed, what does this deed take to complete? And we can see objectives, entering the inner sanctum, and completing the Temple of Utukbur. So that looks like a quest ID. It is a quest ID, and the quest ID appears to be the same. Great. So what we can do is we can go ahead and update this. But I now have to remember how I mark things. Aha, deeds completed by quests. There we go. So let's go ahead and add these three in here. No, there it is. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and... Now, is this the deed ID or is it the quest ID? Deeds completed by quests. I'm going to say it's the deed. Okay, so we want the second one. And that is this. And this is true regardless of language. This deed is completed by this quest. However, in some languages, the deed and the quest name are not always the same. Okay, that's actually probably going to resolve all of that. Now, we'll just quickly go through these other auto-generated files. What? Why are these things different? French? What's going on? All right, we're going to come back to that. I don't think it will be affected by the exclusions we just added, but let's take a better look at this. Okay, French, what are you doing? Are these actually different? Or are they just being sorted differently? Alright, they do look identical. So why are they being sorted differently? Okay, that one's done. Coming on back. Okay, so we can see the conflicting quests are no longer causing a change. Nothing in the D data. Nothing in most of that. And then... Okay, why are these different? G in chat says, can we have an option to draw weapons when not on combat? So first of all, I do not work for SSG, so while I hear your desire for that, I have no power to make such a change. Secondly, there are a few emote options, such as the hero pose and its epic variation, but I don't think that's what you mean. I think that just means walking around with your stuff. And you could do it temporarily, maybe by starting a duel in those places where duels are allowed, and then you would technically be in combat, but you and the other person would just agree not to murder each other. Short of that, I can't think of anything within the game as it currently is that would get a visual of drawing weapons. But a great place to put that kind of request is either on the LOTRO forums or in the official LOTRO Discord server. There are places where you can make that kind of a suggestion, and if enough people are like, oh my goodness, that would be amazing, that increases the chance of SSG prioritizing that kind of a change. Little Redhead says, I think there's a Mariner emote. And certainly I don't have all of the emotes out there, so if standing still while drawing the weapons is enough, some of these might be in line with what you're looking for. But if you're looking to be able to have the weapons out while you're walking around, but not in combat, I don't think that is currently supported in Lord of the Rings Online. However, I will say I have my weapons generally turned off in my cosmetics. I guess technically my main hand is shown. That's why we're seeing it there. Boop. So a lot of times I don't even have my weapons visible except for this cosmetic shield on my back because I've been adventuring in Gondor. And so I feel like, repping Gondor is the right move. All right, Honed, you are in the way. So, yeah, sorry, G, in chat, I don't think I have a good answer for you in that. So the Redhead says you can cosmetically equip weapons, but does that cause you to draw them while you're out of combat? I think the answer is no. So I don't think I know of a way for you to achieve what you currently want. So I think the best thing is to let SSG, people who work for SSG, know of your interest and let other people kind of clamor around and say, oh my goodness, that would be so cool. And so the forums or the Discord server are the places I know to make that kind of a suggestion. So good luck. I hope you get what you are looking for. Okay, so... But thank you for asking. Sometimes we know things that others don't, and we can share that. Okay, G has put it in the suggestions box. Awesome. So, as you may or may not know, SSG, Standing Stone Games, has a long list of things that they want to do with Lord of the Rings Online. And every year they, or now quarterly, they're putting out letters of things that they're trying to get to. And the last couple of years, when you kind of compare what they have done to their official list of what they're doing, usually other stuff creeps in there. Like, they had this official list of this major thing and this medium thing and this minor thing, and then these other things also made it in because they had the time, they had the staff power to do that. So just because they have a lot on their plate doesn't mean something could get in there if it was desired and if it was easy enough to implement. And that kind of thing, because they already have a way for your character to draw their weapons in combat, it feels like it could be an easy fix for them to give you a button that you can press for them to do it out of combat. Who can say, in a system that is as complicated as Lord of the Rings Online, sometimes something that seems on the face of it like it should be simple could be horrifically complicated, and vice versa. Something that you're like, how on earth did they manage to get that working, was in fact really simple just because. So it's very hard on the outside to estimate how much effort something is. But that can be a reason why something doesn't get implemented, because it seems like it should be really easy, but because of code that was written 14 years ago, it is not. For example, I suspect one of the main reasons why we can only buy one basic house on a server, I think on a server, yeah, definitely per character, one basic house per character, is that probably somewhere in there, written long ago, in a bunch of different places, it assumes that your character has 0 or 1 of these things. And it would be a large effort to change those assumptions in all of those places. Little Redhead says, here's something amusing that I just saw in World that's up your alley. I wonder if it's possible to hit 150 without Valar, without doing any deeds. Yes, as long as you die before, I think level 7 is when you first start getting those survivor deeds. So that's in class, race, epic, I think race and social. And we're going to need to show not actively achievable deeds. Coming on down here. Oh, that said hide, didn't it? Okay. And avoiding defeat. So, okay, so as long as you die before 5th level, you will not acquire any of the avoiding defeat deeds. The wary, the undefeated, the indomitable, the unscathed, the undying. Cool, that's out. As long as you don't complete all 3 of the introduction quests for a vocation, you can avoid getting one of those. And you could technically get the ability to farm and or cook and gain experience just from your crafting. And I don't think there's any deeds associated with those. No, wait. There's deeds just for hitting levels, at least on a legendary server. Are there... Speaking of, Maverick says, hi, new to game. Does dying early in-game lose anything other than title? The short answer is no. And that's just what we're talking about right here. There are 5 deeds that you can acquire if you do not die before level 5, 10, 14, 17, or 20. If you have reached level 20 before dying, you can achieve all 5 of these deeds. Otherwise, unfortunately, as with my completionist here, I died in the old forest at level 17 or something. However, for something like the Deed Tracker plugin, it does not count it against you if you didn't get them. It just notes if you did. So other than that, there is no penalty that I can think of, no lasting penalty that I can think of for dying or being defeated in Lord of the Rings Online. There are a few situational things. If you're in a skirmish and you are defeated, you'll have a debuff on you until you finish the skirmish, so that I think decreases the number of marks or medallions or something that you earn. And there's actually a way to clear that other than completing the skirmish. So other than that, I can't think of any lasting effect from dying in Lord of the Rings Online that would give you a strong motivation to avoid dying. Wizik says, I think there is a level 15 deed just for hitting it for class. Interesting. Oh, yeah. So class deeds, you would have to avoid using any of your skills that much. But again, if you're farming / cooking, you're not using any of your class skills. I don't know. I think Bjornings and other later introduced races / classes have some things that auto bestow that are corollaries to deeds that you have in other classes. So I don't know that there is actually a deed for minstrels just leveling. But yeah, Little Redhead points is agreeing. Bjornings definitely have that. Hey, little one. What's up? Hey, let's get you complaining on camera. No, I know you hate being picked up, don't you? Okay. Thank you for telling me. Yeah, so I think that's a Bjorning thing that I don't know that correlates over with other classes. So you would have to avoid being a Bjorning in order to get to level 150. You'd have to die before level 5, and you would have to avoid any of your class skills. And you couldn't slay very many creatures at all. That'd be difficult. Nope, you're right. You're right. I'm seeing it now. The level 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, and onto Moria deeds give you those gifts that I feel like, were those new introduced at some point, or... Oh, Wizik points out, and bingo, a most curious hobbit. Very good. So, I think one could redefine the challenge to, is it possible to get to 150 without completing any voluntary deeds? Because level 15 through 51, you have no choice over if you are leveling. The don't die deeds, you do have a choice over. Just go out and have a wolf eviscerate you. You'll be great. Delving's introduction, you don't have a choice. When you hit server cap, you're going to get it. So I think we could classify, here are the ones that do count and here are the ones that don't count for that kind of a thing. Vocation deeds absolutely count. Just don't do those quests. Promotion points, don't do any don't do any epic battles. Okay. Interesting. Cool. Well, a fun little mental exercise there. There's probably epic, but again, most of those are coming from completing quests. Okay. And you want to avoid doing any reputation gain, so don't go making those the Matham Society goodies while you're cooking. Don't eat anything, just in case. Skirmishes are easy enough. Just don't do any skirmishes if you can avoid it. Don't do instances. Don't do hobbies. Don't participate in the war. Don't mention it. And then, yeah, the rest of them are, you have to avoid doing any quests anywhere, or at least not too many quests. So you could do like 10 quests in the Shire, maybe. But once you've done 15 quests, so you could do 14 quests in the Shire and not complete a deed, except if any of those involve slaying things, it's super easy to complete Slayer deeds in the Shire. Exactly, Kiss. Don't mention the war. Yeah, 20 spiders. So you could defeat 19 spiders. If that's, I feel like farming at that level gets you just as much experience. So, yeah. Neat thought experiment. Thank you, Little Red Hood. So, yes, if you are willing to classify some deeds as unavoidable, don't count, don't taint the experiment, and some of them not. But I think you're just incentivizing people to go cook and or farm a bunch of things in the Shire after dying. And I don't know that that's a fun... I mean, there's certainly a challenge to be had with that kind of an experience, but I don't know... I would prefer challenges that inspire people to interact with the game in a more full, holistic manner. Certainly a little crafting is fine. A little adventuring is fine. A little instances is fine. But to do only one of those things... Yeah, it says probably a one-time thing. That would be a grind. Yeah, like, kudos to the people. I think I saw at one point a video of someone who had leveled up only by making pies or something. Fantastic achievement once. But, yeah. It's dedication is what that takes. Okay. So, what's up with French? And I say this with all due respect. What's going on? So one thing that I'm not sure of is if I were to go ahead and just naively sort this, edit, sort lines. Okay, all the special characters went somewhere else. Yeah, that doesn't work. So if I were to go ahead and move this line over, it's fine. If I were to go ahead and move this line over, it's fine. Max says, wow, that's a lot of board games at the back. And I am French. I do not understand the French language very much. And I think it's a shame because I think there's a lot of benefit to learning it. But I've been spending so much time learning Dutch because I am living in the Netherlands. And as an offshoot, my comprehension of some basic German is getting very slightly better. But I feel like French deserves a lot more of my attention than I have been able to give it up until this point. But I would love to at least stop butchering French pronunciations. That sounds like a really neat thing to do. Because we're in the Netherlands, we can travel relatively easily to France. But it's a little intimidating, knowing that I would be so inept at the language when I get there. Not that it really matters, because French people in general are really good with English, though that may not be their preference. Hayes asks, is One Launcher good to use? I don't have any personal experience using One Launcher, but I know some people who swear by it, who think it's fantastic to use. So I can't give any personal advice of how it compares to the LOTRO launcher, but at the moment, Setting Stone Games have been, I don't know if struggling is the right word, but they have announced that they are working on a replacement launcher for Lord of the Rings Online, but it has been slow to manifest. So there are certainly people, just for the launching capabilities of it, who find the One Launcher better. Little Redhead says, if there's French to be said, Little Redhead usually handles it after checking a translation tool to remind me of the words. It's true. Little Redhead has taken actual bona fide French lessons at any point in time, whereas I have not. And so there's a certain advantage to be had. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just taking advantage of the file comparisons to confirm that the differences here are purely are purely in the sorting and not in any of the content. Okay, so we just rearranged things, and we can see that content-wise, everything's the same. And if content-wise everything is the same, then I'm going to go ahead and do the commit. I don't know why things are changing, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and accept that things have changed and commit it and be done with it. Hayes thinks that Setting Stone should just adopt One Launcher. Well, I can't speak to their motivations for that kind of thing, but having had some insight into the legal aspect of corporations, I think there's a benefit to a corporation to know that they wholly own a program, or there's an explicit licensing agreement for the parts that they don't own. So if they're using open source code, if they're using a library that they purchase, if they're whatever they're doing, at every step of the way, there is a legal document that specifies who owns what and in what manner it can be used. So incorporating code from the community like that kind of necessitates, in my mind, maybe not for SSG, again, I can't speak for them, but in my mind, any company that's doing software engineering in the US especially, that's thinking about incorporating code like that, automatically you're thinking, okay, what legal document is going to cover this? Oh, we need to create one. We need to create one that we think is going to be reasonable for all the parties in concern and stand up in court. And you have just added a whole bunch of cost to this ostensibly free thing. So that's the first thing that comes up. Does SSG then take ownership of the project? Does it no longer belong to the creator of it? Or are they at the whims of the creator of it? Who has the control? Who has the final say? There's complications involved, and sometimes it's an acceptable complication. Many companies use open source software to use in their for sale software, as long as the license for those components allows for it. But if you're just say, hey, this is licensed under the MIT open source license, bam, done. Everyone knows what it means. Everyone knows the legal implications of it. And everyone can point to it and say, hey, that thing is governing us all in this agreement, and it says we can do the thing that we just did, no problem. Whereas if you don't have that, things get more complicated. And companies, as a rule, don't like complicated. especially when it comes to legal issues. They want things as dead simple as it can be, as clear as it can be, with a whole bunch of asterisks in there where I'm sure you can find counterexamples of companies doing things that seem bonkers on the face of it, but in general, they seek a simplicity and clarity. Max has very well explained. Well, thank you. I hope so. My analogies can be a little weird sometimes. Okay, so we've gone ahead and redone the thing. So we're just going to go ahead and anything where it's just a timestamp change, but the contents didn't change, I'm going to blow that away. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and accept. Do we know why? Oh, I think the apostrophes started being different. All right. No, they started being sorted differently. Different collation rules are applying to French apostrophes. Shrug. I don't know. I can see an argument for these being collated the same or differently. I can't see an argument for SSG using two different apostrophes unless that is a normal thing in French. Hayes says, I just think open source tools are cool. I agree. I think they have an amazing place in the software ecosystem, though I don't know if One Launcher is open source. If they haven't explicitly said this is open source, here's the license, then just because it's available for you to download or for you to use doesn't necessarily mean it legally should be considered open source. I haven't looked into it. It may very well be. Okay, so we have the different collation rules here. We're going to go ahead and commit that. Awesome. That is not a user-facing change. That's not a change I'm going to put into a README file, but it is a change in a file. So we're going to go ahead and track it. Push that thing out. Okay. So added timestamp for conflicting quest file generation. That is this. Added deeds. What do we call this thing? 208. Deeds completed bad quest. Great. That gives us a clean working directory for the tool. Oh, nice. Hey, says its license says GPL v3. Oh man, it's been so long since I've looked at licenses. Oftentimes someone else in the company that I work for is tapped for that. But I do know, and this is, some open source licenses are very open in what you can do with them. One that comes to mind is the MIT license, where generally it has been provided, for you to do whatever you will at your own risk, but you can use it in a commercial project. Its use does not bind your product into also becoming free and open source. And there are some licenses where if you use the thing, it kind of taints the licensing of your project to where if you use that thing, your thing must also bear that same license. It automatically converts your thing into the same style of open source. So not all open source licenses are created equal, and depending on what your goal is, you may find some of them not suitable for your project, especially if you're working for a company that's large enough to have a legal department. They probably should be involved if you choose to use new open source libraries, or at the very least they should sign off on which licenses are suitable for your company. If you work for a company that's large enough to care about this, you've probably already heard this, but if you haven't and you're going to be, just know that different companies will have different thoughts on the applicability of open source, and some of them will think that reinventing the wheel is terrible, you should never do it, you should always go open source if you can. And some of them will think that there's a middle ground where if it's part of the core competency of the company, outsourcing that to someone else causes you to lose control over that thing, which is supposed to be a core competency of your company. So if your company is focused on X, you should do X in-house because that's what differentiates you from other companies. Maybe. Your mileage may vary. As always, don't take advice from strangers on the internet without careful consideration. Okay, so that's that D tracker. We also have a clean working directory here. This is just the debug flag. So we are good to start thinking about changes. Fantastic. Should probably cause myself to not log off this game I'm ostensibly playing. Okay, so what are we doing? At a certain point, this program is loading up deedinfo.lua, and it's using that to generate these deed data files. I think. Let's find out if that's true. Deedinfo.lua. Okay, well, certainly we use it in one place in this program, and that's cross-referencing this data. Great. Let's see if we really want to dig into this right now. Deed info file name. How do we use this? Deed info contents. Okay, we load the data. From two different places, deed lookup and a deed info. What are these values? Deed lookup tables and deed info. Okay, what is deed lookup tables? Fantastic. So these are the what looks like the indices being used in the other. So for instance, Shadows of Angmar. Cool. Yes. And they are numerical indices. They're really just syntactic sugar. So that you can look and see, okay, instances, I Shadows of Angmar instead of 2 and 1. Because 2 and 1 is not nearly as readable as instances Shadows of Angmar. So, this is reading both of those files. Okay. What does load data do with that? Okay, it is saying it's representing it as Lua stuff, so it just concatenated these two things together. And is going to go ahead and execute that, which means the Lua object is going to have these tables in memory. Cool. So we have a deed log pages. Okay, so it is populating the in-memory thing. So it feels like we could be able to rewrite the deed info file. Don't need those for right now. It feels like we could regenerate this file pretty straightforwardly, or at least the parts of it that we care about. Okay, so that's something to think about. I'm also thinking that there was a note that we had probably from Telerian. Alright, LC data files have type class required class equals. So, can we get rid of both the CRV list and subtype list in the post processor? What a great question. Let's go ahead and find that. Okay, certainly all the ones that say class are very plausible. V would be vocation, and vocation, of course, got blown away, or the concept of it did. So let's take a look and see what options we have here. Because I'm guessing if we go ahead and permute that for unique. Oh, there are still some vocation ones listed. Interesting. Well, I spoke too soon. Let's bring back the deeds. Okay, so this is type Explorer, mid-level 1, category 9. Okay. Let's go look up the category Category 9 is class. Okay. You must complete all the tutorials associated with the arms and vocation in order to earn this deed. But I don't think I use the vocation anymore. Because it doesn't really matter. Let's take a look at the produced file. Data. Okay, it is marked as vocation. Do I use that anywhere? So, data, we're going to go ahead and minimize those because we don't care about that. Data info strings. That's funny. So we're going to ignore those. This is an updated save format. It doesn't matter. Okay. So, it's string subtype. I think the only purpose for this is so that in class race epic, was it class? I think I saw it was class. We can see I'm not seeing vocation being useful is the problem. I should probably get rid of that. Okay. Interesting. Because yeah, at some point this was actually doing something and then we stopped. So let's delete that. What if we stopped having vocation information? What does that look like? Yeah, I can see why I commented out the stuff I didn't care about. Okay, coming on in. What changed? None of those. Those did. Okay, not surprisingly. These changed in that they no longer have a CRV of vocation. But they still have the subtype. Which means we're probably not going to see that subtype in there anymore. Let's take a look and see if we're happy with that. Neat. what's going on here? Plugin functions. Yep, sure did delete one line too much. Okay, so if we come on down here and we hover over this, we can see unknown subtype. So we're trying to use okay, so subtype seems like it should also go away because it was providing us with the vocation subtype. So here, where is this being used? Only here. That doesn't seem right. But sure, I mean, so final references to that. I think I'm deciding that it is no longer that useful to have information about vocations when the vocation name is in the name of the deed. Vocation Armor Tier 1. Doesn't really feel like we need to decorate that as well. So let's go ahead and search for vocation again. Oh, that's terrible. Why would I do that? Well, apparently I'm not using it. Okay. Let's come look at the subtype. Okay, so that's 9, 40, 52, 40, all the way down to 57. Yep. Okay. So if we take that out, we'll no longer see a subtype being generated. Okay. That covers those 3. 2 anyway. Okay. Great. All of that seems fine. We have some to-do entries, that's fine. Get vocation, where are we using this? Let's see, that's this. Okay, I don't think this is being used. Gone. I will set vocation to 0 because that's what we get now. Readme don't care. Are we still using this? Appears not. Okay, I'm thinking that that covers most of what we're talking about. Okay, so let's go back into the game and see if that broke everything. Okay, not on the face of it. We still have unknown subtype, so now we're going to come back and regenerate, rerun the preprocessor, post-processor, whatever it is. Okay, so that should finish us off for that. Let's come on in and look at what changes happened that we care about. Part of me would like to have the tool kind of compare the output and see, did anything actually change? But it seems like a lot of work, so I haven't done it. Okay, so let's come on in, come back into LOTRO, reloading these deeds, coming in down, we hover over it and we just see deed, classification, armor, tier 1. Great. So all of these are still looking good. And as a bonus, things got a little simpler. So we can see the class, race, vocation, and the subtype have gone away, with nothing else visibly changing here. Perfect. So we're also removing the vocation section here. We are also removing other references to vocation and that. Removed additional code that refers to vocations. Now I do wonder, does this have a not actively available type? Not that I see. Okay. Great. So if that's the case, then I think it should be pretty straightforward. Let's come on back in here. And we are looking for unique values here. We know that class is one of them. We know that race is one of them. So we're going to go ahead and sort lines. We're going to go ahead and permute lines to unique. And we can see just class and race are left. So the real question is, can we, in fact, distinguish these? So let's look at a class. Okay, this is a of type class, and the required class is hunter. So we should be able to reference both the class race aspect for this and also that subtype. Because if we come in here, we can see that is equal to 162. And in the actual processed file, we can see that the CRV is class and the subtype is 162. So as long as we can generate that, we're good to go. Now the other half of this was the race. Where did it go? Uncertain. I must have closed it. Okay, so these are all class. There's a race. Let's take a look. Okay, so we can see this is required race tag, and that comes with high elf in this case. So if we come on down here, we can see that that's 117, and that corresponds to the subtype 117. So we should be able to get these values. We just need a lookup between the two. So in those places where we are using these two lookup tables, I think we can get rid of them, and that's going to streamline this process a little bit. And that's the goal, streamlining the process as much as possible, pull stuff out of the code here and put it into data files if it needs to be anywhere. Okay, so where is this used? Find all references. There we go. We have two places. Fill in CSV. Do we use that? CRV, that is very funny. Okay, let's fix the name of that. Okay, and this is fill in extra info, and this is being used. Okay. So yes, that's being used. And this one, oh, it's the same function. Fantastic. So we're going to go ahead and commit the change that we just made, which was just a little typo fix. Moved vocation leads from CRV/subtype. And that was this and this. Okay, yes. So that's that. Fixed typo in function name. CSV has very different meaning. Okay. So what I want to see is, what does it mean for this? Because I think what we have is we have the thing that's coming out of the XML file, and we have the thing that we're writing this into. So the one on the right should be the Lua structure, and the one on the left should be a representation of the XML structure. And if we have the XML structure, we should have that information, as Delirian pointed out, and as we just confirmed, that gives us what we need here. So, in fact, let's actually move forward to one where this will work. So we can see this source deed is a class deed. We can see it has a required class field. So let's go ahead and rewrite this a little bit. If source deed required class, and we're going to say not string is null or empty, then we're going to do some stuff. And if not string dot is null or empty, source deed dot required race. Awesome. So where do we go from there? If okay, so what we are expecting to put into the code is race or class. Okay, so destination deed dot CRV equals class equals destination deed dot crv equals race. If something's both a class or a race, that's nonsensical to me, but this would not account for that. Okay. Well, let's see. We're just going to regenerate these files, and in theory, we should get the exact same ddata localized files. But this is why I love source control, because we're going to be able to see, by doing a file comparison of what it was and what it now is, if anything has meaningfully changed. And if it has, was that intentional? And sometimes yes, sometimes no. In this case, we're looking for identical files other than that timestamp at the top. So let's take a look at that. We're going to come into fork. Oops. We're going to refresh this over here. That's all the same. Really? I did title case class and capitals for erase. That's fantastic. Why would I do that? No. Hang on. Yes. These are all title case. What is going on here? We're going to reset that. Okay. Okay, no race, no class. And is that what we're looking for? Like, if I search for that, collapse everything down, and plug in functions, if that's class, how bizarre, but sure. Okay, that's what it did. Class, race. Optimally, I would have used a variable name, variable named class or variable named race, all caps, that referred to like a numerical value, but that's a change for a different day. Let's go ahead and regenerate those now that I have actually looked and seen what I was supposed to generate in the first place. Okay, so this should be just about done. Alright, I'm no longer AFK, or AFK as they say. So, let's take a look and see what, if anything, changed. Nothing! Cool. So, right away, we can go ahead and say, hey, this CRV list, was it used anywhere else? Find all references. No references, which means we should be able to just delete that and recompile, and we should have no compilation problems because nothing's using it. Fantastic. Let's see where subtype list is being used. Find all references, please. Great. Just here. In fact, we're going to go ahead and delete that. Okay, so we know the fundamentals of what we're doing. We have a deed from an XML file, and we need to do something special. So if we know we have a required class, then we need We kind of need a lookup table actually. So what we want to do is come on into the deeds, required class equals quote. So what we want to do is find every instance of that, and we're just going to pull it on out. And then that will let us narrow down what we've got here. And we're going to go ahead and sort this and permute it into unique. And that gives us the 12 options we should expect to see. Now, this will be a little fragile because we'll need to update it whenever they add a new class to the game, but they don't do that very often. So we can expect these are the values that we're going to see. So what we want to do is make a lookup table with these and their numerical values. We have the numerical values. That's in our... Not there, not there, not there. Probably in the lookup tables, yeah? So close. It was in the deed info strings. So we have these numbers here. Now, that's not enough of them. What's going on with that? So what we might do is instead go straight to the source and see if we can't find races. Maybe. $23, okay, 65 elf, yeah, okay, cool. Huh. Oh, you know, I was conflating class and race, and that's why I was getting confused. That happens. And also, did my file disappear? Ah, well. Okay, well that tells us what we need to have here. So, the key equals, and then we're going to go ahead and add in a string here. We'll grab those values and paste them in. Now, the real question is that correct? Required race. Yeah, it does seem to be. Yeah, I'm definitely seeing the lowercase there. That works. So, required race of our lookup table equals new. Yeah, fine. Dictionary string. So, what do we think about this? Yeah, it does seem like a very Lua thing that I've written, isn't it? Great. Okay, so that's our lookup table. What we want to do is look up in here var value to use equals lookup table, and that's going to be the source deed dot required race. And then if not string is null or empty, value to use, we're going to go ahead and use that instead. So the destination subtype equals value to use. Okay, so that's fine. And then we want to do the same thing where we have this lookup table. Now this could be somewhere else. In fact, it probably should be. So this is the race string to number, race name to number lookup table. Okay, so we have that. Let's go ahead and hoist that on out to somewhere, probably up here. And we can make this a private const. Oh, it can't be const, can it? Static dictionary that okay, so that's the one of them. And then, oh, it should be an int. Fine, whatever. Okay. Sure, make that field read-only. Why not? So, that's the first lookup table that we want to do. The next lookup table oh, we didn't need to check that because we're doing that wrong. Well, that's fine. How cautious do we want to be? I think if we don't find it, we definitely want to crash, so that's fine. Okay, and required class, we're going to do something very similar. So we want a lookup table for class to number, private, static, read only, dictionary, string, int, class name to number, lookup table equals new. Great. So let's go back into here, and we're going to do the same thing. Classes. We want to make sure that the deeds here, required class, we can see they're using capital letters, minstrel, burglar, all that looks great. So we're going to go ahead into classes. And grab each of those. Is it going to be Corsair or Mariner in here? Oh, they never changed it back. It's still Corsair. Alright. Well, mocking it out. Okay, so we have that equals this. And that gives us the values for this table. Just on the face of it, looks pretty good, but we can always come back into our Lua and say, do these things match up pretty well? We have the man, elf, and dwarf. Those look great. In the classes, we have champion 172. Yep. And these are, in what order are these? I'm going to fix that. Let's go ahead and do at least a minimal sort here. I feel like they should either be in order by alphabetically by key or numerically by value. I'm going to choose the key here. Oh, Wizik points out that I missed the Loremaster and the Runekeeper probably because of the dash. What a great observation. Thank you. All right. We're going to do that one more time. All right. Lore Master and Rune Keeper. I think that is exactly right. But that is okay. So we're going to go ahead and grab those values. Great catch there. Thank you very much, Wizik. Cool. We're going to go ahead and bring those back. Yeah, I see the master there, Lore Master and Keeper. Yep, much better. Okay, so these are alphabetical again by key. You could also do it by, numerically by value. This was just easier. Okay, so we have this lookup table that we can use. Let's go ahead and zip back down here. So we can say var value to use equals that source deed required class. And then destination d.subtype equals value to use is in fact the same, which makes one wonder, couldn't we just not do that? So, int value to use now subtype here is actually an int question mark also. Why was it about questioning me? Okay, what's up with that? Use of unassigned local. Okay. Shouldn't it default to null? I don't know. So, let's give that a try. So, just to reiterate, we are chasing down this note from Tellurian, pointing out that the information for class and race is in the LOTRO Companion data files already. So we have redundant information that we can just get rid of. And if this is good, this could be a good breaking point for today after we're done with this. I guess I should avoid logging out again. This could be a good breaking point for us today. We'll have made good progress on simplifying this preprocessor program. I have visions for how to make it nicer for me or anyone else to incorporate new deeds. And this is definitely a step, is removing data that is hard-coded in the code here and putting it somewhere else, or not having it at all like we're doing right here. Okay, so dtracker, no change. Change. Now we get to find out if the change is correct or not. Let's take a look at this. So, where are we? This is 153, and this is Master of Connotation. Master of Connotation. So this is supposed to be under Rune Keeper. Okay. Rune Keeper should be 193. And we're seeing 193 there. So what happened? It was 185. What's going on with that? Something as simple as a copy paster. Probably 185 would have been Lore Master. Nice. So let's go into our source files and see what happened. So we're going to go into class deeds. Master of connotation. Great. Okay, so these values were no longer stored in this file. So master of connotation, these were RuneKeeper, okay. And in the processor, they were listed as 185. These are all supposed to be RuneKeeper, and RuneKeeper should have been a different value. Let's come into here. RuneKeeper, that was all Lore Master. So we found a bug. We found a place where we mislabeled this data, which was the whole point of doing, of pulling this information out. One of the whole points is it could be wrong, and we need to trust the authoritative source. So this is actually a customer-facing bug, as you might say. So we're going to come on into our README file, because this is going to need to be documented. Version 3.2.x changes. Actually, I'll just 3xx changes. Deeds, and these are class, race, epic, class, adjusted several. And I think these were not actively available. Let's come on into here. Yeah, they're not actively available, so that I think that's an obsolete. That's what that is. Yep, that is obsolete. Which is probably why no one has commented on it being wrong. Awesome. Yeah, just several obsolete RuneKeeper deeds were accidentally marked as Lore Master. Fixed. Okay, so that is great. We're going to go ahead and have that README change. We're going to go ahead and make sure everything is saved here, because apparently I didn't do that. Plugin functions, this is remove additional code that refers to locations. Great, let's do that. And we're going to close this spreadsheet so it stops having an open file. Okay. So this is all that is. It's just that set of being changed in all of these. Fantastic. Okay, so going back to our preprocessor, we can get rid of this thing. So we have that, we have that. So subtype list, find all references, symbols without reference. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of it. Now, it does raise the question, are the difficulty deeds marked that way? This is the class, required class, category 9, which is class. Description, achieve 50th level playing through as Lore Master, unadventure difficulty. What's the quest? Well, it's a failure condition. I'm curious what the quest is anyway. Normal. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so we could auto-detect something based off of difficulty, but it would be kind of a chicken and egg problem because we can detect it if it references a difficulty quest. But the problem is the actual deeds that we're really looking at Okay. Objective 2. Yeah, it looks like this. Okay, I don't see a good way to mark that, but one of the things I want to do is extract this information from here and store it in the actual location. So actually store it in these source files, for instance. So there might be a deed metadata folder in here. In fact, let's go ahead and create it. Deed metadata. And from here, difficulty deeds dot whatever. Maybe it's JSON. Maybe it's XML. Doesn't really matter. For now, it's actually going to be TXT. Now, it would be nice if we had all of those comments. That would be pretty cool. Let's go take a look for that. These are probably class race epic. So, probably race and social apprentice of. What am I missing? Where are these things? Okay, 5-1. This server is not listed as being landscape difficulty. That's the problem. They are class. Fantastic. Yeesh. It's very disconcerting when suddenly it's not working the way I think it should. Okay, adaptive song, apprentice song, master song, disciple song. Great. So these are class race epic. Great. We're in the race and social. There we go. So we're starting with, well, I probably should have searched with that. Okay, 75207, no. Okay. Okay, disciple the scrolls. And wouldn't it be nice if we had lore master for these? And that is also lore master. Great. So I don't think I'll do all of these necessarily right now. I don't know. It feels useful to do for my own sake, but there's a bit of monotony to it as well. But that's the general idea, is we would take that and stick it into a text file. Don't need to indent that. So we get to decide the format here. So what we're going to do is basically strip each line so that we stop looking after the comma and we're only looking at this first bit. We could do something more formal, like an XML file, a JSON file, whatever. Seems like overkill right now. So the question is, where is this used? And the answer is in only one place. So what we want to do is populate a file, a lookup table, sorry. So private static, is it static? Nah. Private, hey little one. No, I'm not going to pick you up. Okay, so it is just going to be a list, and it's going to be a list of integers. And this is going to be difficulty deeds equals, sure. In fact, we're not going to do that. We're just going to do that. Do we have a constructor in this class? I bet we do. Do we not? All right, generate that constructor. No, I don't want to generate the constructor. I just want to find it. Okay. Let's go ahead and make a constructor, and that constructor is going to be initializing this. Okay, so we're going to make a new list. We're going to go ahead and read in all the contents of this file. So var file contents equals file.read. No. Oh. Yeah, read all text. Thank you. And we want to go ahead and pull it in, similar to how we're doing it in other places. Now, this is heavily bound to my computer, and that's going to be okay for right now, but eventually it'd be nice to, have a settings file somewhere where someone could actually point this at their own installation. Okay, so documents, LOTRO Plugin Online plugins, deed tracker. And instead of data files, we're going to go into source files, deed metadata. And from there, we're going to load up difficulty deeds.txt. And if you're used to seeing backslashes escaping the next character, C#, excuse me. You can mark a string with an ampersand in C# and it will understand to not use those as escape characters, which is very handy when you're writing out Windows-style paths with backslashes. And if you want, you can combine that with interpolated strings with the $sign variant of C# strings. You can do that as well. We just don't need to here. Okay, so we've read all the file contents for each. Oh, that is a string. So we want to split that on new lines. Var file lines equals that. And that's going to give us an array of strings. Perfect. For each var line and file lines. And you could do a link expression if you wanted to. Or Drawrick says, hello, what am I looking at? Well, you're looking at a project where we are taking a tool that I use for the deed tracker plugin for Lord of the Rings Online that processes a bunch of data files that look like this to grab information to automatically populate it into here. So if you hover over it, we can automatically get acquire 100 promotion points instead of just, it's called promotion points, who knows, or someone having to manually type that in. Cool, so that's what we're doing. We're trying to make improvements to this processor to make the process of adding new deeds to deed tracker easier in the future. Even to the point where maybe someone else could do it and it doesn't have to be me because the tool is so particular to my machine and to what I'm doing. one step at a time. Right now, what I'm trying to do is to take the list of deeds that are difficulty deeds, landscape difficulty, pull it out of code and put it into a text file somewhere, so that it's that you could change it between executions of the program without having to recompile the program. Cool. Okay, so we want to go ahead and split this line. Var line parts equals line dot split. And we're going to split it on a comma. And then we're going to go ahead and say, and we're okay with failing if this doesn't work. We'll go ahead and make sure there's no trailing lines here. And then we'll just say int.parse of line parts 0 var deed id equals this, and we're going to go ahead and add that to difficulty deeds.add deed id. So that gives us the initialization of that value, and that means from here we can find the usage of is difficulty list and instead replace it with difficulty deeds. Awesome. So ideally, if we rerun this preprocessor, we're going to get the same data files minus timestamp changes, and that means we are going to be set to delete another thing from the code. Fantastic. Whether this needs to exist in the long term is a different question, but for right now it does need to exist because I don't know how to distinguish a landscape difficulty deed programmatically from the data files. Maybe someday. Certainly if there was an NPC that we were getting this from listed here, maybe we could try to use that, but I'm not seeing it. Now I will say, any deed that has a failure condition of the Tier 1 difficulty quest is probably a difficulty deed quest. Difficulty deed. But oh, that could be interesting though. Slightly more complicated to do. Instead of a text file of difficulty deed IDs, consider checking if a failure condition is completing quest that. Because that, as we saw, is difficulty normal. That is, you complete the normal one, you automatically fail every difficulty deed. And that might be a better way of doing it than what we're currently doing it. But this gives us a starting point. Okay, those are the same. Those are the same. 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 Awesome. Love it. That means we can go ahead and get rid of the is difficulty list. And now that it's out of the code, now we can actually circle back around to that idea. So what we want to do is delve into the XML reflective structure here. So what we're looking for let's go ahead and yeah, there we go. So what we're looking for is a failure condition, and if that's present, if the quest complete is there, and if that's there, the achievable ID is this. And remembering that we can have more than one failure condition. So let's take a look for that. So if deeds deed dot, oh sorry, source deed failure condition. Where is this? Objectives. It's in objectives. Objectives. I assume that can be null. Not equal to null. Then what's going on here? You're fine. Okay, then what we want to do is for each of our objective in source d dot objectives dot wait, is objectives itself? Yeah, okay, that's an array. Great. Sometimes the XML has these in arrays, and sometimes they're in a subobject that is an array. If objective var is difficulty, well, I guess we don't actually need that. If objective dot, what are we looking for? This is a failure condition. Failure? How do we tell if this is? Let's cheat a little bit. Let's go ahead and say if sourceDeed.id equals this, var halt equals true. What we just want to do is inspect this thing. Yeah, I know I'm not using it. I want to inspect what the memory looks like at this point, because I think it will be informative. But these should be failure conditions within the objectives list. Oh, but it's not unobjective, so it should actually be one level higher than that. Okay. So, what we want to see is sourceDeed. Let's expand objectives. And we can see one objective is there. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those are the objectives there. And that's the other objective. So this should still be at the objectives level. What's going on here? But objectives is an array. Why is objectives an array? It is entirely possible that failure condition was added to the deed structure after I generated the schema here. And if that's the case, it gets silently dropped when the XML file is serialized or deserialized. So we're going to place that as note. We need to update the schema for the deed file because it doesn't know about, and we're going to go ahead and say that that is the failure conditions. Okay. Dark says, reminds me of my first attempts at Python. Love to see how organized it is. Yeah, I can see that. Python is a really interesting language, if I'm remembering it correctly, because it uses indentation alone to control blocks, as opposed to braces. So, for instance, here in this, if you were writing this in Python, the indents alone would be enough to call out that these things are within this function, this is within this function, and you wouldn't need the braces. I find the braces, I don't know, comforting? I find the braces helpful because white space by definition isn't visible, and I don't like it when invisible things affect the code that I'm writing. At least I don't like it because I'm not used to it. I certainly grew up with almost exclusively languages where white space indentation in the code didn't really do anything. And I think Python is smart enough to not make a distinction, but if these are spaces or tabs, I think Python is okay with that if you're consistent with how far they are. I'd have to check on that. But you know, if you've got an extra space here, that's suddenly a syntax error in a language that cares about white space, and that is unsettling to me. But again, that may just be because I'm not used to it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and stop the execution of this program. What we would really like is to regenerate the schema based off of the XML file. Can we do that from in here? XML, create schema. Did that actually change anything? Well, that's why we have source control. Well, hey, there's a failure condition there. Deeds. So let's see what that changes and how much of it we want to change. So we can see the failure conditions are new, perfect. We can see in a different section some other stuff has changed as well. The real question is, does this cause us problems because a type that we've overridden has changed? For instance, the quest category here changing from string to unsigned short. So what we want to do is come on back and do a compilation here. And we do have a failure, so let's go ahead and look at that error. No, we didn't have a failure. Great. Not having failures is great. Love it. So let's go ahead and assume that everything is fine, nothing is wrong, and come back into wherever we were. I think it was extra info. There we go. So what we want to do is, if the objectives is not null, if source d dot objectives dot failure, nope. Where is the failure condition? I updated the schema, but I didn't update the classes. Okay. I have to look this up every time, so just Google, search or whatever your favorite engine is, C# generate classes from XSD, and there's a command line program. And the real question is, can I run it straight up? Nope. So we're, if you have something like Visual Studio installed, you should have in your start menu a Visual Studio command line developer command prompt. And that, there we go, should have what we need. So we're going to come on into serialization. We're going to do XSD and the schema, which is deeds.xsd, and then /classes. That converts the SSD into the serialization classes that we need. That's going to cause us all sorts of compilation problems. And this is where we go back into that, that schema and maybe undo some of the changes. For instance, can I convert from byte to string? Yeah, I get it. So that is a category, and we probably want to undo that change. Not necessarily, but it's going to make our life easier. So we can see, what is this? This is sourced.category. Okay. Well, that's funny. Okay. I guess we'll just do it by hand. String. Oh, that could actually be what the specific problem here is. I may have made it in the generated file and not in the source file, which would have been embarrassing. Because it'd be nice if we can catch it one step higher. Okay. So let's pull open this XSD, and we are looking at category, something that's called category. And we want that to be a string. Great. And then from there, we regenerate the classes, and we can see that turned into a string. That's a problem solved. Only a bajillion more to go. Okay, this is a uint to int, so we want this to be ID. Oops. We want that to be an integer instead. Is it just int? Let's find out. It is just int. Fantastic. That's going to actually fix a bunch of them. Unpeeling the onion says, was like, yeah, there's a little bit of that. When you have a schema change that can just roll forward. Okay, so we've changed a type in here. And what that means is objectives. These objectives ooh. Okay, what does DG's objective have in it? It has DG's objective. The automatic naming of things generated from a schema can be quite hilarious. So deeds has is a type that nested within it has a list of deeds. And so that list is called deeds. And objectives is the type within which it has a list of objectives. So the type automatically generated is deeds, objectives. Fantastic. And that's the thing that this is going to need to be probably. And then we have the objective condition. So let's go into deeds objectives. Actually, objective condition. Deeds objectives objective condition. Love it. Now, if we recompile that, did we get rid of that problem? Yeah, probably. Do we still have 83 more? Yeah, probably. Fantastic. Okay, so going through deed.objectives. This is actually the objective because objectives can have both failure condition and objective now, so you've got to delve into it. Yet another. Okay, objectives.objective. In each of these cases. Great. The IntelliSense completion is picking up the pattern. Okay, so faction ID. Faction ID is mistyped as far as we want to use it. So we can see we're at reputation here, reputation item. So we're going to go ahead and just redo that, regenerate this, and come on in and see that that picked up the change. Fantastic. Only a lot more to go. For each statement, objectives dot objective. And we can do this safely because we know it had to be referencing objectives, not failure condition, because failure condition did not exist. So this must be the thing it resolves to. But it's still a little unnerving. Objectives, objective. There we go. So for any of these, I'm guessing we're going to need to add an objectives in here to clarify what we're talking about. Great. 50 some more to go. Okay, so objectives, objectives, objectives. Landmark deflection point. Fantastic. Getting closer. Okay, deed dot objectives. Oh, right. Dot objective. Fantastic. Probably some more in here. Yep. Can we convert deeds objective item used to from landmark detection? Yeah. But why is that a problem? Because I didn't fix that. Thus, it wasn't a valid constructor for resolving that call. Problem solved. More problems created. 47 more to go. My goodness. Yeah, this is why specifying types is just silly. Lua has the right idea. When things change, just ignore that and hope for the best. Alright, well by the time I finish solving these issues, I think it's definitely going to be towards the end of this stream. So now's a great time if you have any questions, comments, concerns to start getting those into chat so we can take a look at them before the end of the stream. Not gonna get rid of me that easy, LOTRO. Okay. Does not contain a length, sure. As it says, looking forward to the continuation, like leaving on a cliffhanger. We try to we aim for excitement here. Wouldn't say we always get it, but I actually have visions of a graphical program that just presents a tree-like structure of the deeds outside of LOTRO and let you move things around in the tree. But I think that might be overkill for this. What is largely a textual operation. Okay, quest complete. No. Quest complete. Okay. Ah, okay. This is a problem of that being an unsigned int. Let's fix that. Okay, objectives. It does not contain a length. Yeah, I could see that. Okay, this is monster died, and this is... Okay. Monster died, and this is... Monster selection. Okay, what's up with that? That's the same thing. Ah. Okay, so index. This is a monster died. Monster selection. Oh, that's very weird. Selection dot where? What are we looking for here? Land name, maybe? Yeah. Okay. We'll do land name. Okay. If the objective dot index. Objective is... Did index disappear? Is that what we're saying? We are saying that. Okay. Monster died used to have a where. No, we're not saying that. Yes. It used to have an index. Now it has an event ID. Should we assume that that's the same? Probably not. Okay, I would like to see some examples of monster died. I mean, certainly that's a thing. And it seems to always be one. Sometimes it's two. I don't know what it was intended to do off of this. If it was equal to 0, then we're going to use the lore override. Yeah, alright. We can give that a try. some of that might just be comparing old and new versions of this file. Okay, we have a couple more in here. Quest bestowed, I think also probably had one of these. Okay. Quest bestowed had an index, now it's an event ID. Sure. Same question. Index to event ID. Correct. Okay. And then, do we compile? We compile! Do we remember what we were doing? Not really. So let's rerun this and see what happens with these files. Because ideally, they're going to be unchanged. All right, that's what we were doing. We were going to look in the failure conditions, right? Oh. Interesting. Whereas an error door becomes the shadow bin error. Yeah, okay. Oh, I don't like that mess. We're missing the ore. Okay, so let's come on in and take a look at this specific deed where this is failing. Tournament of the Twins. Alright, quest bestowed, event IDs 2 and 3. Okay, now I am very curious. I don't actually know how far back I'll need to go to find this. So let's go back to update 40 and check that out. Okay, still event ID. Okay, let's go back to update 39. Still event ID. Man, I haven't updated these schema files in a while. Okay, index 0, index 1. Then why are these event 2 and event 3? I mean, if object, if quest ID equals and that what's wrong with that? You want a number? Okay. Then var halt equals true, breakpoint. I would like to see what's going on in here. But I think that I was thinking, okay, there are multiple quests bestowed. Great. Index seems to be functional as a way of knowing where we are. But, okay, so the parent knows. We have items, quest bestowed. Let's see how often this actually shows up. I think it's just for these. So if the quest bestowed count is greater than 1, and the event -1, so it was 0 and 1, I believe. And now it's 2 and 3. So we're plussing, now we're yeah, okay. Yeah, let's amuse ourselves and see if that looks good. The other one was monster selection event ID. And I think that's causing us a problem with the Boar Slayer. So that is this one. Great. And great. Okay, almost there. Okay, so the Boar Slayer, we can see each monster at index. Land name is working. Okay. We're just missing the index. And a better solution might be to include that index in the iteration. So okay. Yeah, so that change was no good, as expected. It was always possible. Okay. We would like the actual index. So what we would like is an index. Great. So that is probably a better answer to this, rather than trying to rely on something else that clearly is not an index. I'm not sure what event ID is in this case, but we're going to modify the function signatures so that we can pass what number of objective are we in from the calling function. Or we're not. dynamic runtime. Okay. Objective bestowed int has some problems. Does it? Because that sounds pretty reasonable. Oh, I lost the exception. Fine. Whatever. Private int current index. Okay, so coming on in here, removing that. Instead, we'll just use the global variable instead. Why not? It's not really a global variable, it's a class scoped variable, but it still feels like a wrong solution to this problem. But the dynamic function dispatching that I'm using in this file is apparently not willing to have that extra parameter right now, and I don't really want to dig into it. So if this solves the problem, it'll be fine for now, is my theory. Not AFK. No sorry. Okay, so the D objectives are still coming out different. So what I would like to do is, in this code, alright, we're not doing the or. Alright, we have a D ID, I think. Okay. This is mostly good. Obviously, the parts where the index changed to event ID needs a little bit more digging, and I'm worried that I'm kind of spinning in circles here. So, I don't want to not fix this, but I think I'm going to not fix this on stream. So, let me go ahead and document where we are in our handy dandy to-do file. In trying to get this done, we updated the XML schema and C# class files. Now there are some issues with monster and compound quest objectives. C Boar Slayer or turn them into the twins contenders frame. try to resolve by passing the index into the toString function or using a class variable to track it. Okay, so that's where we are at there. I think this is really close to being able to use that failure condition, which is what we were doing this whole time, use that failure condition to automatically detect the things that are likely to be difficulty deeds instead of having a fixed list of them. So if I get that done in the middle of the week, awesome. Otherwise, we're going to pick this up fresh next time we're here, which I can't remember. Are we here next week? We may be. We have some possible travel conflict that may keep us out of the house until after the stream time. I've got to double check. If not, we'll see you the next time, whenever that is, to work on this. Okay, so what have we done? We have been modifying the pre-processing tool that I use to make life easier and for generating deed tracker deed information. So I need to currently place the ID and some other stuff, and we're trying to just knock it down to just where does the deed go, how far indented is it, and is it actively available. And we want to keep these things out of the source code and into configurable text files instead. So I feel like we made some pretty good progress on that. And I'm not seeing any other last minute comments in chat. So that is everything we're going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I do hope to see you here next time. And until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.